43. We took the beats on that, Mr. Ford.
I'm sorry?
We took a beating on that interest rate. What happened?
The reason for that, Mr. Mayor, we explained at the time that was the interest rate in place at the time that report was written, and that the interest rate that we would be paying would likely not be that rate, that it would be something else, and it is something else. The reason why that issue was not concluded before now is that one of the requirements was that we had to provide the 2015 financial statements, which council approved, I think, around the 10th of January or the 12th. Once that was done, then Infrastructure Ontario closed the application, and all the rest of it from that point in time until today is all red tape.
Okay, and then, but on the other report, 20-17-23, page 76, we got it at 2.02%.
Yes, I saw that, and I sent a note to my staff and asked them, where that came from, but I haven't got a response back. What I have got is a confirmation of the rate I just told you, or you told me and I confirmed just a few seconds ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know that rate that's quoted in there. I'm not sure where that came from. Okay.
Now, does Norfolk County have a policy on debentures and issuing debt and things like that? Because,
in what respect, sir?
Geared towards what it is used for, like when we have, I see here, landfill management. That's not really a hard asset. It would be what I would call a soft asset if that's a plan. I don't know what that is exactly.
Okay, generally speaking, through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Height and Council, generally speaking, any capital infrastructure spending that does not have a reserve or a reserve fund has to be funded from some other place. Mm-hmm. We try to accommodate that with other funding opportunities like the gas tax or things of that nature. Where we can't, then debt will have to be issued. That's part A. Part B, if it's a new item, I just said that, if it's a new item, it has to be funded that way. No, I said about if it doesn't have a reserve fund, it's funded that way. If it's something new, the policy says that it's to be funded from, quote, new money, so new debt or new tax levies or new grants. We ended up in August presenting a number of situations where the reserve funds were in a deficit and we needed to issue debt to cover that. So that would be an unusual circumstance. Typically, if it's new, it's debt or tax levy or water rates. Or if it's a replacement and there is no existing reserve or reserve fund, it then comes out of debt, tax rates, or water rates.
Okay, so and typically you would capitalize this over the life of the asset, or yes, there would be a minimum standard in there, but on page 75, how would you handle the forest management? Because that was for the ash removal. It's not an asset to be capitalized over a 5 or 10 year.
We did discuss that with Infrastructure Ontario, and they agreed that it was a debenturable, if that's a word, mm-hmm, project. I don't disagree with you, but they agreed that we could fund it. I think that one's funded over 5 years, or being repaid over 5 years. I'd have to check that, but I think that's what the case is. Okay. And what Mr. Mayor, actually, Councillor Height's right. We try to match the life of the asset with the amortization period. Where it gets to be a little more difficult is if you have a sewage treatment plant, which is likely going to last more than 20 years. There's a very limited market for 30-year debt, and we would probably really get killed on the rate, so we stick to 20. Large infrastructure projects like that require a little finesse in order to have the debt issued beyond 20 years. But any other project, we try to match the amortization with the life of the asset. And we usually have the amortization less than the life of the asset. Okay, and
on that same page 75, you have building and building services at $154K. Is that our building department?
No, that would be
a facility?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on that report that you brought to us, it said that the debt that we took on back then would have a levy impact of 1.8%.
Yes.
So now with the new interest rate, and it's verified, it's gone up, how does that affect things?
Well, you're going to like the answer to this. The actual annual repayment costs are lower because we restructured some of the projects and moved them from a 10-year amortization to a 15 and 20-year amortization. So the actual annual cost, I don't have the percentage number. The actual annual debt cost is around $6.5 million, $650,000 less than it was in August. And that's because we spread the term out for some of the 10 and 15, from some of the 10s to 15 to some of the 15s to 20.
Yeah, so you've spread it out now, and that affects the budget that we just passed?
A portion of those debt charges was included in the budget. I'd have to go back and look and see what amount we included, but I didn't get that information prior to tonight to answer that question, but I can certainly get it.
Okay, I'd like to see some of the ones where you've pushed them over, because the air bottles and stuff, I don't know that I agree with debenturing that, but it's all we can do right now. So I guess I was looking at some of our audited financials and taking on that much debt. It looks like 2020 is we're going to have the mother load coming down, and it's $13.2 million in interest and payables, or interest and principal for our debt repayment. How are we going to address that, considering before then it's going to be a $4.5 million?
I don't know what you're reading that from.
Our audited financial statements.
I think what
Note
you're
8 specifically.
Okay. I'm going to have to look that up, but I think what you're looking at is that in that schedule, I think it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus.
It is 2020, and then 2021 is the 5 plus.
Okay. I'll have to have a look at that, Councillor Hike.
Okay.
Right off the top of my head, I can't answer it.
Okay, and if you would, while I'm after the lost reports, the reserve report, will we have that?
It's working its way through. We're expecting that it's going to come latter part of March, worst case scenario, middle of April.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anything further on this motion? If not, those in favor? It's carried, and of course, the other bylaw will be the confirming bylaw that I hope we get to shortly. In the meantime, there are no motions this evening. Notices of motion, Councillor Black, I have something here with two notice of motion. Do you wish to speak to these, please?
Well, not really. It's just, here they are. They're written. Council can read them, and we'll be able to debate them in 2 weeks. One is in regards to methadone clinics, and the other is in regards to budget deliberations and setting a process.
Thank you, sir, very much. So we'll be dealing with those 2 weeks from now. Thank you, sir. Any other motions, notices of motions? I'm going to go to other business. Shelley, do you have anything for us?
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Pam?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you two ladies for filling in this evening. It's much appreciated. Mr. Ford?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've got two items. The first one is that the tax collector has informed me that the tax bills have been printed and they should be out in the mail Thursday or Friday. The second thing I want to speak about, Mr. Mayor, is an article that appeared in the Norfolk Today in Norfolk Today on the website, on the internet, daily local news headlines, and I'm going to quote from it. It says, Friday morning at the Simcoe County Court, both sides agreed to an adjournment as the county still had some outstanding financial numbers in regards to the property in question. This is with respect to the Norfolk Inn hearing that was scheduled for last Friday. So I'm just going to repeat the important part, that it was adjourned as the, quote, county still had some outstanding financial numbers. End of quote. I just wanted to make sure that council is aware of the fact that that comment is a little misleading. In fact, the reason why it was adjourned was because the applicant had not provided the county solicitor with their pleadings and their undertakings. And the applicant's solicitor then appeared at court requesting that the hearing be adjourned until a later date. And it's been adjourned until the 25th of May, subject to the applicant providing the documentation that's required by the end of April. I just wanted to bring that to council's attention. I appreciate Mr. Mayor giving me an opportunity to speak to it, because this has been a very difficult situation with the Norfolk Inn. Staff and the county have taken a pretty good beating in the press over how this has been dealt with. In this particular case, the implication is that there's something that we, the county, have not provided. And I just want to make it very clear that we've done everything we can. We've provided everything we are required to, and it was the other side, so to speak, that wasn't providing what they needed to provide.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Ford. I appreciate you clearing the air on that. Councillor Wells, and then Oliver.
I certainly want to add my thanks to Mr. Ford for that as well, because when I heard that on the radio, I must truthfully admit that I was quite upset that we, the county, were in some way not ready for the exercise. So thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe I should know the answer to this, but is it appropriate in a situation like this where a story has been, as I would say, misreported, that the county could request that Norfolk Today publish a correction? I know we see them from time to time in the print media, the normal newspaper media, but this obviously isn't the normal newspaper media. It's through our MyFM 98.9 friends, and I'm looking at it now as provided by Mr. Ford, and I'm just asking. I think it should be. We should be requesting a correction to that.
Can we look into that tomorrow? I've asked the clerk if he would agree with myself to look into that tomorrow. I don't disagree, and he said we will. Okay? Just make a note of that so I don't forget. Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Anything under other business?
Mayor, thank you.
Bill Cridlin?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Susan Taylor? Thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate it. And Lee Robinson?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay, I'll go to council then. I'll start with Councillor Height, please.
Saving up, Mr. Mayor. So nothing this evening.
Everything okay? You're okay? I wanted to say to you, and I will say it now, that I attended, along with other members of council, your AGM at LPRCA on last Friday afternoon. I was very much impressed with the way that business was handled and the reporting and your guest speaker, and congratulations to you. I think you've had a very good year.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Fair enough. Thank you. Councillor Geisens, please.
Tonight, thank you. I'm just
Councillor-
waiting.
Councillor, you're just waiting for the arrest warrant. Very good. Keep us informed.
Maybe as a council, once the majority has ruled, everybody's supposed to be in favor of what the rule was. So you're all coming with me. Thank you.
Maybe a little crowded in there, but Councillor Columbus?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a couple things. To Ms. Robinson, I tipped her off that I'd ask this question. It's with respect to the water bills, and I've had a lot of calls in the last few days about that. And it's with respect to some people are getting 2 water bills inside of about a week. So they're wondering what's happening, because it's actually one concludes the second bill they get actually has the first bill's expense on it as well. So when they look at the bottom, it's maybe $158 instead of $65. Okay, so I just wonder if our general manager of Public Works can, while people are listening, go through the process as to what's happening with the Earth Solutions, how they're handling things, and how this one gentleman called me. He said that they told him they wouldn't charge him any interest on the penalty. So I just wonder if that is actually the case, or are they just giving him a line?
Through the mayor to council, as staff had reported previously, with the transition to Earth, billing dates were being moved around, and depending on when your previous billing date was, and I think all councillors have received phone calls, and if I'm not mistaken, it's actually pretty much gone through waves through the councillors as it's moved through the different wards, depending on what the former billing cycle is. Unfortunately, when we got to this sort of point, in order to get the billing dates to work, that is what happened, is they had two bills very, very close together. There was also a small glitch in one of the systems which has been corrected, and people have received revised bills as well. As we previously reported, there will be no interest or penalties charged during this time period because we recognize that a lot of people are on a fixed monthly income, and when they're receiving two bills for the same thing during this period, it's extremely difficult for them to do that. So that is something that is very much correct. There will not be any interest or penalties or anything of that charge. We're just about through it, and by the time you get your bill in March, that will be your new billing date, and that will continue on a monthly basis from then on. And we welcome anybody to call the offices, and we're more than happy to walk through any of their concerns with them.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to hear that, and I'm sure the listeners are too that are concerned. A lot of it's from seniors who actually have automatic withdrawal from the bank accounts is the issue. And so if they've only billed for a 15-day period, do they still pay the full basic charge, or is it prorated?
It will be prorated. That was one of the glitches that we were working on fixing. We're not double charging them the fixed basis.
Okay, well that's good. The other question I have is with respect to the new RAB building on Robinson. And one of the reasons that building is there is because we are tight for court space on Queensway West there, where the OPP are. So do we know what the cost is to operate that courthouse, and is it paying us returns on our rent that we pay?
Through the mayor, I will respectfully refer this one to either Mr. Ford or to Ms. Darlington, as Public Works is not really involved in those sorts of operations.
Through the mayor, I think that's something that senior leadership team should review. In the current budget deliberations, the cost for that facility was all housed in one area, and it was not separated to all of the tenants, the Norfolk County tenants, in their operating budgets. So I currently don't have an allocation for the POA operation on the costs of that facility because it was in one cost center, but it's likely an action item for SLT to review.
Okay, so we'll make it an action item and hear about it in a few months.
Councillor Oliver, please.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything for tonight, and I just hope my colleagues that are saving it up for 2 weeks from now, not next week at council and committees.
Councillor Sonnenberg. Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Black.
Just Wellington Park, and we did have an update on the removal of the fountain, and it has been removed, and of course getting lots of calls on wondering what's going on there and why, after, I guess it's been 50 years since that was put in, because that was the former town of Simcoe's centennial project in 1967. Many people still around that would remember the ball diamond that was there. And it was removed in lieu of putting that Wellington Park and the fountain, and it was beautiful for a while, but people are inquiring what's going to happen with that centerpiece. I mean, it is the centerpiece of all of Norfolk County. People that come to Norfolk no doubt would go by there. So I'm just wondering if we could be updated by Mr. Cridlin as to if he's made any progress and with meeting with groups or any ideas, or whether there's going to be money in the budget, that sort of thing.
Mr. Cridlin, please.
Through the mayor to Councillor Black. We were very close to having a group come forward with the project. Unfortunately, that's fell through. So what staff are doing now is, you are right, we're looking for people to partnership ideas out there to come through for that location. With that said, there is a short-term goal with the Canada's 150. Todd Shoemaker's looking at, first of all, the flagpoles have to go back up. They were taken down for construction, for removal, and some type of low-ground planting there for this summer. And definitely, as soon as we have any information that we can bring forward to council with may go there, we will. If we can't pull anything together, we will probably look at a bit of a master plan for Wellington Park moving forward, and that'll involve working with all the public and Panorama, is a big user, that sort of thing. See if we can pull together a community action plan to what could go there. But right now, we're trying, but it's nothing in the works here for the next few months.
Thank you, I really appreciate that, but would you be putting any money in the budget for next year's budget?
Through the mayor, I think if we went to a master plan, we would probably have to put a small amount in there. I know they don't like the word consultant, but some help in how to bring this together. But that would be, obviously a 218 budget. So. Okay,
so all the people in Norfolk County and Simcoe and tourists can expect the flagpoles to be in the center and some kind of floral arrangement without the fencing there for the summer.
That is correct. It'll be beautified to what it is now.
That sounds good. I appreciate that, Bill.
Yeah, and certainly if I can add to that, the committee interested in possibilities of a fountain have since realized that there may be other more of an active park planned for that area rather than a passive fountain, if you wish. Certainly for years it was a centerpiece. I would say in the last 5 or 6 years I wouldn't refer to that as a centerpiece, more of a liability and a mess. But it certainly, I was there early this morning and walked to the fenced area. Certainly did a great job of removing it and leveling it, and it certainly looks a lot better, and we'll stay tuned to see what's down the road. Thank you for bringing that up, Councillor Black. Councillor Brunton?
Thank you, Mayor Luke. Just going back to Councillor Columbus's, the RAB building, did we not at budget time, and my question, I guess, is to Mr. Ford, did we not allocate to the building department a portion of the overall, I think it's about $1 million a year to run that building, that was in the budget. Did we not allocate a portion of that towards the building department because of their, and were you not going to look at divvying out the per square footage to the various departments? Is that going to come in a report, or how were you handling that?
Look, Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor Brunton asked two questions. The first one was, did we charge a portion of that cost to the building department? I believe we did, and I think we just took an estimate.
100 grand or something.
Yeah, I don't recall what it was, but I think you're right. On the second piece, yes, that's something we're going to be bringing back, is how we're going to apportion those costs amongst the other departments. And it's not because we necessarily need to know how much human resources is being charged, but there are some departments that we get subsidy, and so we do need to do that, go through that exercise. So yes, that's going to be done.
So the POA will be involved in that.
Right.
Thank you.
Any department that's housed in that facility gets some portion of the cost.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I have, I think, 2 or 3 things. I'll be quick here. I noticed, Council, on page 3 of the information package, and I'm sure you've looked at it, but certainly the townships of Head, Clara, and Maria are asking for support, and its relationship to new legislation. To be quite honest, until I read this, wasn't aware of it, and that's not surprising because there's so much sometimes we get. But this is legislation apparently to clean or pump out a septic tank every 5 years. And I guess, Pam, since you're here from planning, is this now in effect? Do you know, could you comment on this, or do we need to look into this further? Because certainly when you read through this correspondence, it's making it very clear that it's somewhat unfair, because a lot of whether your septic tank, not holding tank, septic tank needs to be cleaned. It depends on what you put in your system and how well you keep it maintained. So do you wish to comment on this, or are we going to hear more about this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure, but we can find out and let you know.
Councillor Wells, or perhaps our building, I should be sending an email off to Mr. Enslin, and I'll do that, Councillor Wells?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I had asked the county clerk to put this on the agenda. He told me it will be on next week, because this is something I wish to speak to, because it goes back to the one that Councillor Geisens was referring to. We get more and more of these mandated programs. Nobody asks us. They just come down all of a sudden, and we have to comply. This is another one. We are supposedly representing our constituents. It's very difficult to represent our constituent when somebody else tells us what we should do and how to do it. And I'll be speaking to that next week.
I wasn't aware, and I apologize, so thank you. I'll leave that till next week. I have two other things. One, I have to ask council. I've had a few complaints lately from residents in the urban area, and in this case, both of the concerns were in Ward 5 here in the former town of Simcoe, about vehicles being parked continually, day after day, on the front yards of residences. And said, well, I'll have to look into this. And I did, and certainly the bylaw department have informed me that there is no bylaw that people can park. And some of the ones I went to look at, you now see driveways. And what's ironic about the two I looked at, there is on-street parking 24 hours a day. There's no alternate sides. There's no 2-hour parking. And I can't understand why people would park a second vehicle in their small front yard rather than park it on the street along the curb if they don't want to stack them, because there's room in both of these. And it just, I don't know, it kind of, in my opinion, and everybody has a different opinion, but in my opinion, it kind of detracts a bit from the niceness of the neighborhood when the cars are parked at different angles every day. So I guess I'm looking whether council wants to look into this or not. If the majority does, we'll have staff have a look. Councillor Black, and if not, it's up to this council.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, I brought this to council, I don't know when it was, a few months ago, and there was maybe 4, 5, 6 people up in the Berkeley Crescent area that were complaining to myself, and I think maybe you got those calls, and Councillor Brunton as well. And I did bring that to council and ask, and at that time got the same answer. But this individual was parking 6 and 7 vehicles on their front yard. And this is, I mean, you know the Berkeley Crescent area, there's some very nice homes up there. Not to say that it's any different if you have a lesser valued home, but I mean, it just, I agree with you 100%. And I think we had this discussion a little bit earlier, and I honestly thought that back in the Simcoe days,
so did I,
that you weren't allowed to park a vehicle on your front yard, only in your driveway or in your garage or on the street. So now you're saying you've got some other concerns from someone else, and I've had some inquiries about that in another location. So I think that this is worth looking at and having staff come back. What is required of us so we can implement something to restrict this parking of vehicles in their front yard. So I would support you on this.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Luke.
Yeah, and pulling your car on the lawn, maybe to wash it is, for an hour is one thing, but to be parking there as a parking spot all year long, I will ask a show of hands to give direction to staff to at least look into this and bring something forward. Can I have a show of hands to support that? And then when we get the report or the information, then we can debate it and see if we want to. Thank you. Mr. Ford, could you note that we'll ask staff by law to bring forward. I'm not looking for a 10-page report, but I'd be interested what other communities do on this in the urban areas. Thank you, Councillor. And the last thing I have, Lee, is to you. I've had some inquiries about where we put new sidewalks, where we're going to put them this year in 2017. I looked up the new initiatives in the capital budget. There's $175,000, which doesn't get you a lot of sidewalk. But the question I have for Lee, do you have any idea yet where we're going to put, not replacement, but new sidewalks in the county? And if not, how we determine, or how your department determines where they go? Could you just comment on that? Because, and I'm going somewhere with this, and then I'll get the confirming bylaw on the floor here. Go ahead, please.
Through the mayor to council, we do in the spring evaluate where we feel a new sidewalk would be best suited, and we review a variety of factors: continuity, pedestrian traffic in the area, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to max out the available funds that council has provided us for new sidewalk initiatives. In addition, it also depends if we're doing a bunch of sidewalk work in the area already, and there is a small section that normally wouldn't have come forward at that time. Because we are doing other work in that area, we may just do that because we can do it much cheaper to have a contractor in that area. So it is something that we look at sort of in April to decide to do that. And if people have requests, we would encourage them to send it in to us so that we can include those on the areas that we review on an annual basis.
I've had requests for 2 people, and I'll give it to you right now, and I can give you their names later. And one is in a scooter that is unable to walk. She's unable to walk, but she's specifically asking for a sidewalk from the corner of Gilbertson on the Queensway East up at least as far as McDonald's. What she has to do is come up the sidewalk, whether she comes up either side doesn't matter, but if she comes up from Tim Hortons on the north side, there's a sidewalk through to Gilbertson, then you either go on the highway into traffic or you cross to the south side where there is a sidewalk, you go up, but then the big challenge is getting you and your vehicle across the 4 lanes in front of McDonald's. So that's a specific area. I've had requests from 2 different individuals. And again, I don't have a count. I know there's a path, but I'll leave that with you to consider. And again, that's maybe a decision council has to make, but I said I would ask, and so I'm asking. I'll leave that with you, and I will forward the names if you like. Be glad to. It's up to you. Okay, that's all I have. So on with the confirming bylaw. Anything else? We're okay? Moved by Councillor Oliver, seconded by Councillor Wells, the bylaw 2017-26. Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council upon this 28th day of February 2017 be passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and affixed with the corporate seal. Those in favor? Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, and we are adjourned.